one of the quotes that I saw, and it's by a gentleman named Phil Bryson. He said, no resource is more powerful in an organization than a high performance team. What great individuals cannot accomplish on their own can be achieved by a high performance team. And I like this for a number of reasons. I like it because I think in a sentence, it states what I believe many of us have experienced, that when we are working on a team that's high performing, we know it. And when we work on a team that's not as high performing, we know it. And we'll look at, well, what is it that makes some team experiences unique? Now, again, I like the quote. My guess is many of us agree with this based on experience, and there is some research to support it. Deloitte did some work. They really looked more at collaboration, and some of what they found is that workplace collaboration saves organizations. They attached a dollar amount to it, thousands of dollars. It was over, I think it was just over $2,000 per employee when there is effective teamwork, effective collaboration. Quite often, some of the research suggests that what it impacts is innovation. Up to 15% is one of the recent statistics that I read. Higher morale, as well as one of the pieces of research said higher sales. When I'm on a part of a high-performing team, sales goes up. And I think it makes sense because those of us who can draw on our experience in a high-performance team recognize that in all likelihood, we were more innovative. We had higher morale. We were able to produce more than when we're not working on such a team. So one of the things I'm going to ask you to think about is this. When you were on that peak team, when you were experiencing what you would consider a high-performing team, whether you were the leader or whether you were a team member, I'm going to ask you to think about what was that like? When was it? What was going on? What was it about that experience that caused you to think about this, oh man, I'm on a team that is different? And I'll share two examples with you, and I'm going to ask you to think of your own. One example was one of my first jobs. I worked, as I suggested, in a financial services organization. And I was the sort of the new person on the block. I had the least experience, and we were working on a project. It was a team of about 5 of us that was important to the organization. And we had to work long hours. We had different skill set, different levels of experience, but I still look back on that. We accomplished great things in a very short amount of time, and we had fun doing it. The second team experience for me was, I say more recent, but really it was at the start of the pandemic. So we're going back a couple of years, and Brian was part of this team. The very start of the pandemic, we went from being an organization that delivered many in-person workshops, very few virtual workshops, to an organization that delivered 100% virtual workshops. So our team looked at this sort of deadline of we have X amount of time to really convert our in-person learning experiences to virtual learning experiences. And again, all hands on deck. We did work long hours and we had fun while we did it. So for me, both team experiences very different, and they had similar things in common. You know, we had fun. We were working towards something that had meaning and purpose to us. You know, I love what was put in, you feel proud as an individual, proud of the group, like you can do anything together. So when future obstacles come, you feel confident you'll be able to tackle it. It reduces anxiety so much. And I actually think that, you know, is how I felt when I think about my 2 team experiences. And Cindy, your question about how can I help a team heal after a dramatic disruption, I think part of it, to me, when we talk about, well, what are some of the characteristics of high-performing teams, and Bob loved that, synergy, collaboration, fun. That's part of how we help people feel, how we help people heal. And I'll, Cindy, I'm going to draw back on that question as we go through some of the content. So again, I appreciate what you're putting into the chat pod. Collaboration was positive. There was flexibility, love that. You know, and some of what you're putting in now is, well, what factors contributed to it? Clear strategic direction. Kelly, I think you're absolutely right. It's so important for us to be able to work toward whatever it is we're working toward. What did the team leader do to contribute to the team's effectiveness? And I think strategic direction is part of it. Anything else come up for you around what did the team leader do that was maybe different with that high performing team than maybe other teams that weren't as productive, weren't as collaborative, weren't as synergistic? For me, when I think about that first experience that I had, one of the things that our leader did is she kind of let us go. She let us think through how we're going to do this together. So we had clear ownership of what we were looking to accomplish. And I think so important. Yeah, inclusivity, I think, is so critical. Fully trusted. I fully trusted the leader, and I think the leader fully trusted me. You know, Dan, to kind of add on to what you're saying there, they demonstrated sincerity. And when we look at this idea of high performance teams, I think it's critical for us to draw on some of the things that you're putting here into the chat pod. Clear, proactive communication, clear expectations and vision for the path forward. Carrie, absolutely. Third is, how did you feel about the experience? So what was it like to be on that high performance team? Like for me, I mentioned fun for both, and I kind of recognized that as I was sharing. Like, I had fun. I really cared about the people I worked with. I cared about what I was doing. Supportive, recognizing each person's strong points. Love that. How did you feel about being on a high performance team? What is it that you were experiencing when you were part of that team? Thoughts on that? And again, I'll ask you to share any of that in the chat pod. Yeah, I felt trusted. I felt energized. I felt as if I was part of something bigger. Yeah, motivated, energizing. And that's what we're looking to create, of course, inside organizations. And for those of us who are leading teams and for those of us who are on teams, fulfillment, sense of accomplishment. So when we looked at, okay, what were some of the things, strong we vibes, so well said, Rachel. When we looked at this idea of high performance teams and we started to look, okay, what does the research tell us? And then what did we know from the high performance teams that we're on? And you've all shared them all in the chat pod. There were three things. There's more than three things, but three things we'll touch on here. One is that when I feel like I'm part of a high performance team, I am part of a group, team, community, where there is a compelling vision or purpose. And many of you talked about that. The second piece is, and this is in a lot of what you talked about, how I felt, that esprit de corps, right? I felt like there were strong connections between me, maybe me and the leader, and likely me and the other individuals on my team. And the last piece, and y'all talked about this as well, is there was strong accountability patterns. That is that I knew what was expected of me, and I had the resources to do it, and I got feedback along the way. So we'll look at all three pieces of we believe, three really important parts of leading high performance teams. And when we say leading high performance teams, yes, I believe that if we have positional power, this is incredibly important for us to be really intentional about doing these three things. And I think as well, if we don't, if we're a member of a team, we have a responsibility of fostering conversations around these three things as well.